So everybody, I am joined again by the smashing, cannabis enjoying Elias. Thank you so much for coming back on.
My pleasure, brother. Thank you for having me.
So for everyone who doesn't know, Elias is coming off a massive win just recently. And well, you know what? I just want to let you tell it. What was that whole experience like, winning for cannabis?
Surreal because again, it's been quite the journey, both as a patient and athlete, and eventually putting a show together. Sprinkled a little bit of COVID delays, just that we're all dealing with. So surreal, just in the capacity of. I think the first time I applied for a therapeutic use exemption with USADA when I was still with the UFC was 2016. So it's been a minute. And again, now to have the approval for the therapeutic use exemption, now the validating of it and fighting and helping not only myself but future athletes not have to go through the trials and tribulations, the endless pills and exhausting of doctors that basically didn't respect my fundamental right to medicate as prescribed by my doctor, and then having it all kind of come into fruition. And now, like I said, no other athlete in BC and in MMA or boxing, amateur or professional, won't be able to use their cannabis if needed and warranted. And again, because of the concept of it being through the BC Commission, which is actually overseen by the British Columbia government, it is now another fundamental and foundational aspect of medical cannabis rights in Canada. And today it's the BC, and tomorrow it's the world, because the game plan is to keep fighting in jurisdictions that currently don't allow it. And when I'm done with it, will allow cannabis to be medicated and used in competition.
So you're setting precedents not only by increasing your record in fighting, but also by helping others down the road get to the point of where you've fought so hard to get to. With using
that's exactly it. That's it. Ironically, as a free agent, I get to be an agent of change for medical cannabis rights. Again, today it's Canada. Tomorrow it's the world.
Well, I know there's some potential news coming out about what you might be doing next, but I have a question about 24 hours before the fight. Can you walk everyone through what 24 hours before going into a cage and fighting another human being is like?
Yeah, I think it's definitely different. Is that simply said? It's definitely different, and it's at the same time, such a familiar thing that I've done now. I've had over 20 professional fights, and in many ways, the hardest part is the weight cut, if you will. Getting down from 205 pounds to 185. And then the fun part is to start eating all the way back up to about 200 pounds the very next day, because that's kind of the process. It's very much like, I'm not religious, but it's very much a spiritual kind of thing where like you're literally breaking yourself down to like your weakest point, like by like anything under like 190, because I get down to 185 when I weigh in, right? So like about 190. That's when I feel like my armor like coming off. Like I feel like all the weight and whatnot really kind of adds up. So the interesting thing is also, now having this many fights at the same time, my body just knows the deal. It doesn't necessarily know I'm gonna fight, but it knows, oh, you're doing that thing that you usually do, because again, I've altered my my diet. I switched from carbohydrates to a healthy fat diet, which puts me in ketosis for the last like 2 weeks, give or take. And from there, everything just kind of starts falling off. It's a process. It's a mindset you kind of put yourself in, and then as with anything, once you kind of go through it, and you don't really like once you're kind of doing it, you don't really have the time to necessarily think too much about it because you're kind of in it. But just like with the fight there, that happened 24 hours later, it kind of, again, surreal. I break myself down, as mentioned, 15, 20 pounds over the course of a couple weeks, and then put all that armor back on and then prepare for war the very next day. It's a strange, but yet, satisfying process, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
Well, during that 24-hour process, I for everyone who didn't see the fight, you released this awesome video right before you stepped in the cage, walking through all your training, all your cannabis regimen. Question I have: when was from the time that first punch was thrown? When was your last THC, smoking or eating? Like, I'm curious how fresh was THC in your blood when that first punch was thrown?
So what ends up happening is there's a transition from essentially THC to CBD. Again, because of the technicalities in regards to a commission, I don't medicate the day of. It's basically the week, or sorry, the what's it called, the 24-hour, 48-hour process. At the same time, I'm still using, for instance, CBD. I'm still using many different aspects of the plant, but just for the technicality, it ends up being a certain amount. Like, for instance, I'm always still vaporizing throughout. Like, for instance, I use Storz and Bickel products, and it's a way for me to medicate the healthiest way possible. There's no combustion. There's none of that, butane with lighters. It's none of that aspect. And again, as a patient and athlete, I'm able to dose all my medicine all the way through. So there's a transition the last 24 hours from THC to CBD, and I'm still able to get all the anti-inflammatory properties that are very important with the plant. But again, I am an athlete who plays with the rules, and what the commission wants is 24 hours between 24 hours or 48 hours, kind of around that timeline, to kind of switch to CBD, because again, in their eyes of the concept of potential impairment, again, I'm someone that plays within the rules and works with the commission to show that, again, not only for myself, but other athletes coming before me, that we can do this in a safe manner to what they assume is safe and whatnot throughout the process. So again, the 48 hours, give or take, before the actual punch is kind of the threshold of where it is, and transitioning more into CBD flower, and even some other, for instance, like hemp flower as well. But then after the fight, very much switching right back to THC.
Oh, that was my next question.
To really get it right after.
I was gonna ask, what was the very first method of THC right after the fight?
Yeah, it was. I had some beautiful Doctor Who waiting for me right after my interview, so I wanted to get my interview out of the way and then go right into the fantastic Doctor Who that I vaporized right afterwards.
So again, for people who missed the fight, how'd you finish it? What round? How'd you feel about it?
Felt great. First and foremost, just being in there. Haven't fought since 2019, December 2019. So it'd been a little bit over a year. Part of that, was being so dead set on and validating my therapeutic use exemption in British Columbia. The other aspect is, obviously, as mentioned before, COVID with the delays, essentially was looking to fight, looking to set the fight around, all the way back in August. Even before I took the promotional aspect of it as a promoter, with the co-promoter I did with Rise Fighting the Stigma, I was looking to fight either on theirs or another, BC promotion, all the way back to last 420. So that was when I was kind of looking to do it. And, with delays, with just kind of, the world that we're all kind of dealing with, that goalpost kept on getting pushed. But at no point did I sway from my actual goal of fighting in BC to validate my therapeutic use exemption. I had offers from, large promotions, and other promotions all over the world willing to pay me a pretty penny. But at no point did I, get my eye off the ball for what I wanted to, complete. I'm, for better or worse, a little stubborn, and someone that finishes what I started, and couldn't be happier the way it kind of all worked out. Because again, I stuck to the merits and to what I really wanted to accomplish. Again, not only for myself, but what that will mean for others to not have to do it.
And you mentioned you're a finisher. I saw how you finished it. Let's hear it from you. What was that experience like? Because when that ref pulled you off, it must have felt great.
Yeah, no, it definitely felt great. That's exactly it. Got the TKO finish in the third round. I think by the second it could have been called. He wasn't really defending himself too much, but he was still in it. You could still kind of feel some give to him. But I just kind of had him from beginning, middle to end. Everything that he threw. There's a component of you're not supposed to watch your success or your failure, and he was kind of watching both. Like there were a couple things that he threw right out of the gate, and I just pounced on him, and it was almost like he was still back in that moment that he threw a punch or he threw a kick, whatever it ended up being, right? So I just took advantage of just kind of being a pressure monster. That's when I work best. Of kind of just I'm a workhorse. I'm one of those people that can just keep going. I think I mentioned it in the interview there afterwards, where I basically said I'm designed for 5 rounds. It went 3, and I finished them in 3. And part of that was kind of I wanted to stay in there as long as possible. I wanted to continue, just for lack of a better, slow cooking them, and it was all kind of done by round 3.
So I know we talked briefly about what's coming next. I don't want to ask if you're not allowed to talk about it yet, so I'll just say what is next.
Well, let's just say the U.S. I've applied for therapeutic use exemptions in different jurisdictions, multiple jurisdictions to be exact. There's one specific area that I think, one specific location that looks like it's when, not if, that my next therapeutic use exemption will be approved. And the really, I guess, a huge aspect is the fact that, other athletes in the US couldn't apply for it in the same way that I could. One, now that I have the approval in BC, I played by the rules under their jurisdictions, and all jurisdictions talk to each other. North America, it works in congruency with each other. So for instance, let's say if I got caught with, actual steroids in my system in New York, and I was suspended for a year, Denver wouldn't give me a license until that suspension was up. So now that I have a therapeutic use exemption for cannabis, and again, I did it within the rules, within the guidelines of that commission, I know for a fact the other jurisdictions that I've applied now in the US are now actively talking to BC. And because I did my part as a advocate and an advocate and athlete, I think that it's gonna help in the overall aspect of it getting approved sooner rather than later. So again, this will create more precedent for athletes in the US in a way that they wouldn't be able to do it. The game plan is to kind of, I'm looking October. There's a very special day, October 17th, which happens to be the legalization anniversary in Canada. And my hope is to be the great Canadian export in the US as I look to validate my next therapeutic use exemption in the US.
I love it. And I'll definitely be watching that one.
It means the world.
I can't thank you enough for all the sharing you've done for TobaGrown and for the people of Manitoba as I fight this fight. And I really, really appreciate all your support to date and hopefully ongoing.
Yes, sir. And again, I can appreciate what's called your fight in in your own battle. And I couldn't be more proud of you and what you're doing. And again, the inroads that you've been making for not only yourself but others.
It's I'm throwing a lot less punches, but it's very very similar. I'm taking a lot of legal punches, but that's that's as similar as it gets. So again,
but again, once you get your hand raised, a lot of other people will not only thank you, but also be able to again not have to go through the same trials and tribulations that you've been doing in your own very public and very again similar way. And again, a few less punches to the face, which is always good, because the best thing about winning a fight is looking like you didn't get in a fight. And I'm glad that happened to me in my last one, and to you and yours.
Well, on that point, I'm just very excited for Manitobans. If they want to take a seat and put it into the ground without looking over their shoulder or having people judge them, that's like every other Canadian. That's what I want for Manitobans. So it's the best fight I could personally be a part of.
Yes, sir. And together we all grow.
And when we have an outdoor event, when regulations allow, I'm definitely bringing you out here. Obviously, if your schedule allows.
We'll make it happen, my man. Couldn't be more excited.
I'm sure there's a lot of people who would love to meet you out here, because at least the people following have been asking a lot of questions about you, because it's really inspiring what you're doing.
It means the world, brother.
Well, thanks a lot, and hope to have you on again after you get another one of these in October.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Again, we can even, once I can actually talk about, what we can even say when the next fight is kind of official, and the next therapeutic use exemption too. We can kind of chat about the next fight, and then we'll even come back again and talk about the next win.
Yeah, I'd love to have you on every day, but I don't want to over ask. So absolutely, buddy, you're more than welcome at any time to come on this show. And I love talking to you. It's just, I've been smiling the whole time, even though people can't see my face the whole time. It's been all teeth.
Same.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and we'll talk again soon, my friend.
Yes, sir.